Daniel, what's up, man? Mike for No Bragging Rights. First off, I enjoy your channel. I got to check out a couple of the videos, and I enjoyed the video that you did on our it's on concrete flower. I appreciate how fair and loving you are in that video, especially with the context that you have of me, like not being a believer and whatnot. And so. I actually saw this video while I was on tour, and I was trying to respond. I wanted to respond then, uh, but I couldn't find your social media, and I don't think, I remember when I was on tour, I didn't see a way to, um, like, send you a message on there. So then, um, anyway, so like I wanted to do this, like this, just so I could kind of respond, but also like I really enjoy and appreciate what you do, and I like the lens of what you put the song under because I think it's fair in how you would read my lyrics. But one just a little bit of backstory on myself. I actually am a Christian. No bragging rights is not though, and I've always tried to keep that. Uh, not I've always I didn't want to make No Bragging Rights a Christian band because for me that label holds uh, a lot of weight. It deserves reverence to be known as a Christian band. And honestly, um, I'm very critical of a lot of Christian bands because I don't think they carry the name. Because there's a lot of weight and seriousness respect that should go with that to be able to call yourselves a Christian band. But I don't I think Sleeping Giant and like For Today were the only like true Christian bands that were in the hardcore scene, metal scene, whatever you want to call it. Obviously there was more for sure, but at least that I got to see in person and how they lived and how they treated people and their lyrics and everything about the message. Um, I I I hold them like they to me they were Christian bands who I missed and so for myself I never wanted to carry that because one none not all my members are Christians, so we all don't share the same views, and so I just always felt like if you're going to be a Christian band, you need to carry that label and you need to be strong with it. Just like straight edge bands, you know? Like I've always thought it was weird when like there's a straight edge a band that labels himself or carries himself as a straight edge band, but not all their members are straight edge. That was always just weird to me because it's like this is what your band is, what the message is. So that being said, I write I like to say that I write all the lyrics and I write from like the lens of my life, but I'm also trying to keep in mind that I'm also carrying, I have, four other dudes that are in this band that are pushing whatever. Thankfully the guys in my band have always been really respectful and they back a lot of, what I write about and stuff, and which has been awesome. But I've always tried to be almost like respectful to that. And so I like to say that I write from the lens of my life. Like I like here I appreciate they said there's like Christian themes and stuff, or I think he said something along those lines of, you know, throughout my lyrics, because I that's part of who I am. Sorry, there's a lot of edits because like one, I get lost in thought, and I want to make sure that I'm getting all my points out. So yeah, so like I've always used different types of ways of writing, and for me, like I've had this conversation a lot, with people that either don't know I'm a Christian and find out I'm a Christian, or people that know I'm a Christian and then read my lyrics and they're like, dude, what the heck? And so I think the way I try to explain it is like, you know, I'm not ashamed of my beliefs. It's always been a really personal thing for me. And it's one of those things where like I've been in this long enough, and and what I do with mental health and suicide prevention and things like that, um, and social work. My degree is actually in social work. Um, I've found that sometimes a lot of people's pain or trauma can come from sadly the church. Which obviously I know that that's a people issue. That's not a Christ issue. That's they've been hurt by people. And so that being said, I usually don't come off with that right away. Like I won't offer somebody who shared with me, um, you know, that they were molested by their youth pastor. I'm not gonna offer to pray with them just because there's hurt and there's trauma there. So for me, I've always tried to like, talk to them, meet them where they're at, come from a place of love, and just kind of love on them, listen to them, talk to them, and then I hope that later on down the line, uh, that that door, if it's open, then we can cross through it because I've had some really awesome experiences with that. Being able to share my faith and beliefs and encourage others who have had that trauma, have had that hurt from the church, that church hurt, whatever they call it. And so it's not a matter of I'm ashamed of it um, or any of that. I want to be in a hardcore band that writes about positivity, writes about experiences. I like to write about uncomfortable topics because a lot of people don't like talking about them. We talk about mental health and suicide, um, and I actually have a song, actually on the same album, "Downhearted." That song is about myself having grown up with mad anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideations. Early on, like my thoughts on what the Bible said about suicide, and just my struggle with this feeling of how it's unfair that I'm feeling this way that I can't control. I'm having these thoughts that I feel like I can't control. And if I were to be so down in a moment and take my life, like how could God not understand that? And that was my struggle with it. So Downhearted is actually about that. It's about having suicidal thoughts and being a believer. And I don't advertise that, but that's what that song is for me. For the Concrete Flower, the song, seeing like your take on the song from the context that you have of it. Again, I appreciate how loving and fair you are with it, and I can completely see your interpretation of it that way. I do, and what I was trying to get at, I think earlier was I was very loose with how I used to write. I used to be very because like I didn't want to like, say God up front on stuff or Jesus up front on stuff, and so I would I say things like the universe, which looking back on it now, 10 years later, you know, it's very spiritual, which I'm not at all, and that's a bummer for me when I go back to some of my old songs because I kind of would do that, and so so for you to have these thoughts or believe that, I completely understand. I've had people ask me why I denounced my faith, even going back to Cycles, going back to even our first album, Because You Believe, that's like 2005, 2006, on Cycles, Not My Salvation, and let's see the song I left that album. Would kind of like ask me about like, hey, why'd you write this? Or for me, Not My Salvation is basically like I'm not buying my way into heaven. Like the ritual side of things, or like yeah, I'm not trying to buy my way into heaven. Not my salvation isn't that. It's not works, you know. And actually, I heard Tommy say a really cool thing, and sorry, this is all weird tangents. One of his like sermons that he said, he mentioned, we're getting churched out of our own faith, and like that hit me so hard because I've felt that. Um, there's been times where I felt like I was getting pulled away from God when I was in church. Anyway, I asked him if I could use that in that song. So there's a line in there where I say that we're getting churched out of our own faith. Anyway, so and a lot of times when I write, I'm writing from the perspective of what I think the person is feeling, and so for the Concrete Flower, although there are there are feelings of personal feelings in that song. For the most part, that song for me is it's about somebody who is just kind of fed up with like trying to do the right thing, and they're constantly feeling like they're falling behind, or they're experiencing like the hopelessness to it. Like why even bother? If the world's so full of hate, how can anyone rise above it? Like what's the point of even trying? I'm writing from the view of someone who's like in despair, and then where it does take a personal side to it is for me I found truth in my pain, which was, I did go through a time when I kind of left the church and like left. It's hard to say. I don't want to say that I ever stopped believing, but it was just very hard for me, and but it was almost like in one of the kind of the lowest points in my life is when I was able to rediscover um, just God's love and God's grace, and how it was almost like I got to start over, and which was awesome and something I needed. And so that's kind of where that comes from. But the whole point of that song is just, again, love is God. God is love, and that's like I choose God. I choose love. Not We're not a Christian band, so I'm not going to overtly use that. Um, and and it sucks. I know. Like I've I've had moments where I feel like, oh, I should be more vocal about this, and maybe it will be in later releases. I don't know. I've just always felt like I didn't want to bring that because of if I do that, then the title comes with it, and the title carries so much weight. It carries so much reverence that I never felt like I didn't think I was a good poster boy for that, and so I didn't want to carry that. So I've always had to like kind of pepper in my beliefs and pepper in God where I can for these songs because I'm presenting this to a hard, as I'm sure you know, the hardcore scene, metalcore scene. It's very it's very anti God and very anti actually say very anti Jesus because um, there's gods all over the hardcore scene, but they're not Christ. I've tried to kind of like toe that line, and in some ways I guess I've almost towed it so far that I come across as you know being coming across as a non-believer, which is a bummer. That's kind of where I've kind of tried to exist. I've never wanted to be overly I don't know what the word is. I don't know, blatant about it. But I also, I don't hide it when people ask me. I'm actually excited to talk about it and share my faith when I can, and to pray for people that want it. Um, but it's just, yeah, I'm coming at it from, I'm just like I'm a believer. That's who I am, and I try to write with, I write for myself, obviously, but I write with the guys in mind. Um, but yeah, faith is a very big deal to me. Uh, so much so that I don't tie it to my band, which isn't, um, you know, and that's a whole other conversation we can have about being a believer in the hardcore scene and kind of being the only one in your band kind of thing too. So that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, I just want to say that I again appreciate your video. I wanted to give a I wanted to talk more, but I don't know how to get a hold of you. So this is kind of my best way to reach you and to kind of I guess give you my response. Yeah, would love to chat and you know. Sorry, just a quick little side thing in regards to the Christian Bale T-shirt. It's a funny T-shirt. I don't know. I liked it, and actually, it also sparked some conversations with people because they would, oh, that shirt's hilarious, whatever. Because I am a Christian Bale fan because I loved all the Batman movies he did. Um, I even liked him in Newsies from a movie way back when, but actually because of that shirt, I was actually able to have some conversations that actually led to me being able to share my faith and my beliefs and stuff. So, um, yeah, I and especially if you have the context of assuming I'm not a believer, that shirt does suck in that context. But I don't know. It's a fun shirt, and it opened up some conversations that allow me to actually share my faith. So anyway, talking it more. Uh, I'm not claiming to be a great Christian by any means. Also, and like I said, there are some of my lyrics that I look back on and I don't feel that way 10 years later, kind of thing, or some cases 14 years later. But I've always appreciated when people want to check me on some of my lyrics and get clarification. I've actually the song the song for me that people ask or people say that's like my denouncing anthem is "Damage Recover" off of Concrete Flower. And for me, that's just about codependency in a relationship, and you know, you can't put your happiness in the other person. You gotta, try to. Anyway, so all I say is, yeah, I appreciate your video. I wanted to contact you sooner, but I didn't know how to find you, and then I don't know, felt like this would be a way to reach out. So, thank you for making the video. I don't you I don't you don't need to take it down or anything. That's your take on it, and that's your raw take on it, and I thought you were very fair for how you for the context you had. So, yeah, just thank you, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon.